So anyway, I'm back now, and I just passed the island I built in a lake there. I haven't decided what to call that lake, or even if I'm going to put a sign indicating the name. There's so much land on this route. This route is close to 200 miles long. It'll be probably 200 miles by the time I'm done with it, because I am nearing the end of the project at this point. I talked about this in the last video, that this was a much bigger project than I had anticipated. Just this section took me a year or two. I don't remember exactly how long when I started it exactly. And there are a lot of rock cuts in it, and it's very hilly. 2% grades. We're going downhill here, because if you didn't see the last video, you noticed my dynamics are cut in, and I'm basically rolling the train down the hill. This is a Santa Fe 1940s or 50s era passenger train with 3 F7s on the point. And the F7s have my custom physics file that allow them to run at 110 pounds brake pressure and 102 miles an hour if desired. This isn't an extremely fast route, though. I had originally envisioned something a little bit quicker, but there are other sections of this main line, because it's so long, which are much faster than this. But in terms of the average speed, you're talking about under 60 miles an hour for most of it. Which wasn't really my plan, but it's a nice freight route, you could say. But the grades are extreme for most of it. Basically, it's uphill in the western direction and downhill in the eastern direction. This is the primary division in the route. I've actually built 4 divisions into the route. Basically 2 over the main route, plus a freight bypass over the first division, because it's the fastest. And then another division which feeds AI traffic into the main, like, big city terminus at the far eastern end. I've thought about adding even more. I've also got a tram line in the city, but it's just become too much. I have really discovered this in the past year, as I've had a lot of other more serious things to do for pay, and I just don't have the time to work on this project like I used to. Plus, the program itself is several generations on and probably incompatible with this route. I'm very glad that I have the 2009 version, because the newer versions don't run on my computer. And, you know, it's a little bit old-fashioned. You can see the graphics are not state-of-the-art, but they're still pretty, certainly. And cruder graphics have the advantage, I've mentioned in other videos, of making it easier to build content. So the Vega project would have required even more work than I put into it if I had to meet basically cinematic standards of realism. This is only really cut above the 1990s in terms of realism, like, you know, Duke Nukem or whatever. It's a bit better than that, but not radically. So it's quite manageable, actually. Now here I got an approach signal, really an approach limited, and that caught me a little bit by surprise, and so I had to figure out what's causing that. Because there's no AI traffic that should be in my way, and really what I discovered was I had a switch set wrong at the east end of this section as a result of my testing, where I did in fact have a, not AI train, but test train sitting on the track. So in a minute I'm going to jump ahead along the route and the map view, throw that switch the correct way, and there we go. Then I'll be able to pull into the yard as originally planned. There's the glitch. Or simply the incorrectly set switch, let's put it that way. So, now it's thrown, and now another flaw in the cab signaling system in on Trainz is that you notice the signal didn't immediately go to clear. It's still at approach limited. So it won't change until I'm at the next signal. Most modern cab signaling systems, including the American ones, will change immediately after the block condition changes. You don't have to wait until you reach a line side signal. The older signaling systems, of course, I mean, forgetting AWS for a second, I know that the old ATC system used by the Great Western Railway worked that way. You know, and it was great in its day, but of course the point of cab signaling today is just as much about speed and efficiency as safety, of course. So you want to be able to react immediately, both for safety and for speed. Gives you a lot more efficient use of your blocks. But anyway, I'm just griping. This was a huge valley that I built. I don't know if you could even call it a valley, but it's like a hole in the mountain range, really, really deep. You can't even see the top here, although there is a top. And then there's that lake over on the right there that's, in theory, fed by an underwater spring. So it's very, very deep, actually. Not that it matters very much, because you don't walk around in this simulator. And so here's a tunnel out of that. And now the signal's clear, so I can open up. Although again, it's more about easing off on the dynamic than it is opening the throttle. Because there are only a very few sections going downhill on this route where you would need the throttle. Speed limit still isn't breakneck. It's only 60 miles an hour. It's Amtrak's minimum. And it's not really a modern speed limit, but it's fine for freight. And indeed, a dedicated freight line would be doing very, very well if it had a 60 mile an hour limit in the United States. So I figure for a really, really rugged mountain route like this, it's pretty mainline-ish. So now, in a minute or two, I'm going to get an advanced speed sign. Because I don't know the route very well yet, I mistaked it for a 30 mile an hour, and in fact it's a 50. So when I reach that sign, I'm going to stand on the brakes, actually overdo it, and then I'm going to crawl to the end at under 30. That's just my own lack of practice and forgetting my own work here. It's hard even to see that advanced speed limit sign on the video, actually. All of these videos are, in theory, the resolution of the screen, or pretty close to it, but they're compressed, so they're a little bit fuzzy.